great. So Missy is recording this tonight. So this can go on Look Ahead America's YouTube channel, along with all of our other previous AMAs. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Look Ahead America. Ask Me Anything with Erik Benjamin Corcoran with Business Liberty. My name is Erin LaCroix, longtime research volunteer for Look Ahead America, and your host tonight. To our wonderful audience, please feel free to post any questions for our guest in the chat below, and I will get to them all. Erik, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome, and please say hello.
Well, hello, Erin, and hello, Patriots. It's an honor to be here.
Well, very honored to have you. To give a little background, I came across Erik's efforts on Instagram, where I saw him featuring loads of businesses in the state of South Carolina who were unapologetically America first. I saw posts all over where Erik travels all over the state, meeting business owners one-on-one and giving them a voice. I was impressed by Erik's growth approach and was so excited when he agreed to come on and speak with our wonderful members. Erik, let's start off by introducing yourself, who you are, where you come from. I know it is a long way from Tipperary, so the floor is yours, sir.
Oh, a lovely intro. Well, I appreciate that. Yes, that's a great World War I, World War II song, by the way. It's a long way to
Yes.
Tipperary, and I've actually sang it in front of churches before so people can remember. But I will say it is a long way from here to Ireland. But I will always be proud that I was born in Ireland, but I'm American by choice. And I went
That's
through
right.
years and years of immigration legally, proudly through the system to become an American. And the next time someone says to you, oh, you should be compassionate towards immigrants. Yeah, what about us, the legal immigrants who did it the right way, who went through all the files, went through all the paperwork, went through all the lines to become Americans? And when I got sworn in 2016, the immigration office in Charleston, I had tears running down my face because I had made it. I had become an American. But a long part of my story comes from my dad, actually. He was a very successful business owner in Ireland. He lost all his business. He was very successful in hairdressing. And it's funny, sometimes you have to lose it all to gain it all. And my dad became a Christian because he had been knocked down so low to the point to where his arrogance was stripped away from him. And it took an American woman, proud to say this, an American woman walking downtown Tipperary town to confront my dad and ask him to listen to these audio tapes that were from Calvary Chapel, which was a non-denominational church. And my dad found Jesus. He left religion and he found Christ. And it was such a huge changing point in his life. But we came to America through California. But before anyone gets angry, it was the conservative part down in Orange County, John Wayne, and I said his name proudly, John Wayne, and
Yes.
the conservative section of the state. But God led me to South Carolina through a crazy set of events, and Charleston Southern, worked on a number of presidential campaigns, and saw what was happening in the country and said, we've got to fight back, and we can fight back with our dollars.
Yes. So Erik came to California when he was 8 years old. His family came over on a religious visa, if I have that correct, Erik. And
Yep.
right. He worked for 18 years before he was finally sworn in as an American citizen, one of his proudest days in 2016. Erik is the example, the perfect example of the American dream in action. Put in the work, he's put in the blood, sweat, and tears for this country, and he swore in as a citizen to be a part of it. I couldn't be more proud to know you, and I'm very happy to have you here to tell your story. Erik, tell us a little bit about your work as a faith leader for various campaigns and how you came about to meet Trump in 2015 on his big, beautiful play.
Well, I'm a pastor's son. And it's funny, my dad became a Christian and then ended up joining the ministry. And actually, that's how we came to America, was through ministry. So I saw a huge need, Aaron, with pastors. That, if there's one place of courage, it should be in the church. I mean, goodness, we saw everything happen in 2020. It should have been churches screaming the loudest about freedom, religious freedom, medical freedom, all the rest of it. But my dad, anyway, he had, really taught me Word of God, reading about real history. And when I became, before I became a citizen, when I was looking at all those campaigns who to work for, I got to meet Donald Trump on his beautiful plane when he came to speak in Charleston at the Citadel. And I can remember being so nervous. I was a senior at Charleston Southern University, and I get on the plane, and he says, "Hey, kid, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "This is Donald Trump in front of me." And I was like, "Sir, I want to be a political staffer, sir." It's the only thing I could think in that moment. And he said, "No, no, no. Think bigger. Dream big. Dream big." And I didn't know what that meant back then. I'll be honest, I didn't. I can tell him now. I know exactly what that means, and I'm looking forward to seeing him again.
Mhm. I love that so many people that I've met and who have gone far, after or being in a circle, they have always said that he asks you, like, what do you want to do with your life? And you answer him, and then he goes on and he's like, well, how can you make it bigger? How can you make it better? How can you be a better you? And that message resonated in 2015. It got him elected, and it made this country great. I love that story. I definitely wanted to include it in here, especially coming from you and your background. Let's go on and talk about businesses for liberty. So, a little bit about how you came to develop this
Yes. Well, it's
idea.
amazing. The lead up to Businesses for Liberty is what happened in early 2020. We all remember that was in the air with BLM and the fear in the streets of Charleston and in Atlanta and so many other places where businesses were getting burned down. People were scared to even see Ross flag, let alone other flags. And I can
Mhm.
remember just saying, okay, this might happen in New York, this might happen in California. It's not going to happen in South Carolina. Well, I was wrong. And I can remember going to the John C. Calhoun Monument. And I remember I just stood outside this monument and I just said, okay, let's just see what's happening. People were throwing things at the monument. They were spray painting. They were damage to the actual structure. And I remember going off to one of the protesters and saying, this is not the way to protest. I'm all about protesting. And within 3 seconds, I was surrounded by about 50, and I have this all on Facebook Live, 50 of these guys who were surrounding me and calling me a racist. And I said, wait a minute. I'm an Irish immigrant. I'm not even from South Carolina. And then one of them said, oh, leprechaun, leprechaun, and started taunting me. And I said, wait a minute. You're supposed to be against racism. And now you're
Right.
calling me a leprechaun and telling me to go back where I came from. But I remember I made a joke and I said, hey, I'm a pretty tall leprechaun then. I'm 5'11". Okay, so you can get off your box. And I said, and secondly, I said, I deserve to be here just as much as you do. And I went through the
Exactly.
process legally. And anyway, I had death threats, everything you can imagine. I had people who would message me privately and say, I wish I could be with you at the monuments, but I'd lose half my business or I'd lose my job. And I said, look, I'm proud that I can be out here for you. But here's what happened. Week after week, more and more and more people came out. And you know what happened? We saved 3 monuments with human shields of people standing in person in front of this. It's not about loving it, but we have to learn from it. The good, the bad, and the ugly make this country what it is. The Irish people went through hell in Boston and in New York and other parts of the country. But do you see me going up to the north asking for reparations? Do you see
Mhm.
me going to London, where they did heinous crimes against the Irish people? Heinous for
Mhm.
800 years. Do you see me looking or demanding? Of course not. It was part of the building of the Irish people in the story. And in the same way, our country, the United States of America, and I'm proud to say our country went through good, bad, and ugly times, and it makes this country perfectly what it is today.
Mhm. I remember I studied specifically Irish history when I was majoring in history in college. And when I came across pictures of the signs in the windows in New York City where the Irish need not apply. I was like,
Mhm.
people underestimate how deep racism goes in this country when it comes to immigrants. And then you hear stories about immigrants like yourself and your family who have come to this country to make it better than it was when they got here. Go to any sort of Trump rally, if you go to any sort of grassroots protest, the best people you will meet are the legal immigrants. They are more America first, more fervent than natural born citizens, I feel like, from what I have experienced. But yes, the Calhoun statue, I have a story actually about that. I was down at Seawee, I think it was 2017. Seawee is the Southeastern Wildlife Expo that's held every Charleston. And these kids were, it's during like a weekend. So, of course, these kids were around, young kids, and they were taking cigarette ash and marking on Calhoun's statue
Mhm.
for like just it, stuff like that doesn't sit with me very well. I flagged down
No.
a police officer and I said, hey, these kids are defacing the monument of a great man, one of the founding fathers really of the country. He made the South great, he made the country great. And sure enough, the police officer ran him off, but now the statue's gone. So terrible, terrible. I do have a question, Eric, from Missy. What can businesses do to demonstrate being for liberty?
Great question. Well, let me quickly lead up to what created Businesses for Liberty, and that'll answer that question. So we saw a certain election happen 2020 that was unfree and unfair. And if I get attacked for that, well, I'm used to it because that's just what it was. We all sham of an election. And up there, and I saw what happened on January 6th, and we can talk about that in a minute. But I came back from January 6th and I said, what can we actually do? And there are people fighting the audits, there are people fighting, but I said, what can I do with the God-given abilities I've been given? We've all been given different abilities, and everyone in this chat, you've been given different abilities. It might be technological, it might be maybe you're a great person on the phone, maybe you're great at organizing. We need every single talent to take back the country. So don't just think, oh, the people that speak a lot. No, no. Sometimes the talking heads need to shut up and the people who work hard behind the scenes do what they need to do. But I said, what can we do productively to fight back? And I thought to myself, I saw people holding Starbucks mugs up there on January 6th. And I said to one fellow, I said, how can you be drinking from tyranny while we're standing
Mm-hmm.
for liberty? Stop drinking from that. And then I came back and I thought, wait a minute, how many patriots are buying into woke? How many patriots, without even, because of convenience, are literally supplying the enemy with all this money? And it's a lot. There's billions
Correct.
of dollars being spent on woke, whether it's Dick's Sporting Goods, whether it's Walmart, Starbucks. I mean, just so much corporations that have been giving to BLM and Planned Parenthood and on and on. So I thought to myself, well, what if we had business owners that committed to being these things? Pro-life, pro-liberty, pro-history, because I put my life on the line for that one, pro-Second Amendment, America first. And if business owners were proudly for, not against, for this, then they promoted to close to right now about 60,000 people. And that's grown over time. So I said to myself, well, how could we do that? Well, we can use social media. We have a web, we have it by category and by location. We're now in 11 states. I want that to be 50. I want us to have thousands of businesses that are, by the way, better than Walmart, better than Starbucks. If you go to a local hole in the wall coffee place, you know this, Aaron, you're going to get better coffee. If you go to a person who makes things by hand, it's going to be 1,000 times better than Walmart. So why are we spending our money on stuff that breaks, stuff that's anti-America, that's America last, and is not supporting local family business? So that's why we do what we do.
Love this. Love it. Love it. So if you guys go to businessesforliberty.com, Eric has a great directory on the website. He has categories for art, auto, clothing, food, financial, insurance, landscape, legal, medical, real estate, and nonprofits, by the way. We are a nonprofit here at Look Ahead America. He also has an interactive map, which I love. It's a really great interactive map. Please check that out. You mentioned January 6th, Eric. I believe that was a very pivotal moment for America. Can you tell us a little bit about where you were that day?
Yeah, January. Can you hear me? Sorry, I got a phone call right then. Right. The worst
Yes,
possible moment.
I hear
January
you.
6th. January 6th was a life altering day for me and many. I remember, like I said, being on the inauguration side. And actually, before that, marching down from Trump's speech on Pennsylvania Avenue. And in every direction, as you remember, Aaron, I saw people that were Asian, that were African American, that were Hispanic, that looked like they were Northern European. I mean, every shade of America was marching that day. And
Absolutely.
I remember the little Chinese ladies with the NCCP signs and the rappers. There was this MAGA rapper, and there were these, was it Jewish supporters of Trump? It was a beautiful sight, and people forget that sight. And I remember when we marched up to a certain point, we were singing "God Bless America," and I almost was overcome with emotion because it was such a "This is America" moment. And right at that moment, I got hit in the liver bullet. And I didn't even know what in the world just happened. And I started bleeding. And I looked down and I actually remember I pulled up the pant legs over my boots and I saw the blood. And then right when I saw that, then we got hit with the tear gas. And then I couldn't breathe. And I looked around and my concern was not myself, it was these children
Mhm.
that were coughing and not able to move because there were so many of us. You couldn't move that day. And my
Mhm.
concern was about them. And I thought, what have we done? We've done nothing wrong. And I ended up talking to the federal folks on the phone, and all they asked me was, "Did you go in there?" I said, "No, I didn't go in the building." But I said, "Let me tell you, what happened out there was wrong. We were singing, we were peacefully protesting like the president told us to do. Why don't we march peacefully and patriotically to Congress?" That's what he said, and that's exactly what we did.
Right. I remember all the video footage that we've been able to access has been live streams that people took on that day. And throughout the morning before the speech, you saw just people walking together through Washington, D.C., happy, singing with their flags. They were
Yeah.
aggressive, not aggressive. People old, people young, there were children, and everybody was there. It was the perfect opportunity to just start shooting fish in a barrel. And I believe they expounded on that opportunity. I'm sorry, it is what it is. I mean, it's the truth. So, and then they opened the doors for them to just
Mhm.
peacefully and patriotically walk through their own thing. Um,
The people's house, right? They call it this, that's what they call it. One of the things that bothers me
exactly.
today, it really bothers me today, is elected officials forgetting that they are public servants. They're not public celebrities. They're public servants. And we hired them and we can fire them. And I really do think we need to look at them more that way, whether they're a congressman, a state senator, a state representative. They only have power because we've given them power. And when we start looking at it that way, it does change things. And I'll tell you, and this is something for you all to remember, when the country is the darkest, we, the patriots, can shine the brightest. Because if you go back in even biblical days, and you look at when the Christians were persecuted, you remember back in the gladiator rings and the rest of it, that is when faith came to the top. And there was none of this watered down Christianity, or I would argue, watered down patriotism. You knew where
Mhm.
people stood. And today, more than ever, we know where people stand. And my job, you know what my main job, Aaron, is? My job is to identify who is with us in every single business I can possibly find in the country. And eventually, by the way, I'd like even in Ireland, I would love to find out who are the patriots in Ireland, who are willing to stand up against this madness. Because this madness, if you think it's bad here, you go to Ireland for a couple of days now, and you can see the tyranny that's taken over Europe. So my job is to make it so easy for a patriot to buy and shop for liberty rather than tyranny.
Mhm. I absolutely agree. I believe one of our initiatives, I was telling you about this earlier, Eric, is the Jobs for J6. We introduced this, I think it was 6 months ago, Ian, if I'm correct. But so we created Jobs for J6 because, Eric, we recognized many J6ers. Oh, so we created a database. Many of the members here in the chat know about the database we developed. It lists all of the arrests stemming from January 6th. Many of these people, they've all lost everything. Their communities shun them, their churches shun them, their own family, their own friends shun them. They've lost their jobs. We created Jobs for J6 because we saw the need to connect employers like the employers that you work with and showcase to be able to employ those seeking work who lost their livelihoods not for what they've done, but for what they believe. Um, Many have lost their jobs. It's terrible. They're just desperately seeking work. They have no prior criminal convictions. Many of them never received a speeding ticket, Eric. We created Jobs for J6 for that reason. And I love what you're doing with Businesses for Liberty. I think we can combine this and really go for creating that parallel economy that I both recognize Americans today are tired of PayPal saying, hey, we're shutting you down, we're not going to give you your money. Or your own bank saying you no longer have access to your account. See what I'm saying? So a parallel economy is absolutely essential. In fact, Don Jr. was showcased on Breitbart News this morning. Same thing. The same reason why he supports Rumble as a competitor to YouTube. We have to create some sort of parallel where we who are against censorship and wokeism and the disease, that is wokeism and cancel culture. We create a parallel economy where people can be free to capitalize on business and liberty.
That is beyond a true statement. I love that you're doing that, and I would love to join forces, whatever way we can
Cool.
get these folks jobs and restore their dignity. I also want to make
Mhm.
another point. There's a lot of people that forget that when you go to a small business and you make a purchase, you're having an experience. When you
Mhm.
go to a big box office store, do they really care how your day is going? Do they really care who you are? No, you're just a number. You're just a customer number 1500 that came through that week. But when you come to one of our businesses and you call them up and you say, I'm a patriot and I heard about you and I want to get, they will bend over backwards to give you a great experience. And how many people, I wish I could ask every person that's on here, how many of you lost friends in 2020? I lost a lot of friends in 2020,
Yeah.
just standing for history, standing for the things I believe in. But let me tell you, for every friend I lost, I got three more that were better, that were passionate, that were patriots. So when you're involved in this movement, understand you will increase friendships. Your friendships will make you better. These are people who won't hold you back and put you in fear and in submission. These are people who will actually help you to be courageous yourself. And that's one thing tell people. I've asked people to ask me, Eric, how has it been? Are you all right? Are you suffering? I'm not suffering. I'm doing better than ever because I've been liberated
Flourishing.
from the fear.
Right, right. You're flourishing, for sure.
Exactly. Flourishing is a great word for it. Yes, flourishing.
So I've got a really great question. Missy had a bunch of really good questions. This is one of them.
Okay.
Um, what kind of networking system is in place for businesses to connect over shared values, and how can that then? So, two-part question. So, what kind of networking system is in place for businesses to connect over shared values, and how can that strengthen them?
Great question. Well, first of all, we advertise our businesses on 11 social media platforms. I don't rely on one. It's very important that we don't put all our eggs in one basket. And if any of you are business owners, I would strongly recommend to diversify where you're promoting your brand, where you're promoting your patriot business. Secondly, we have a group thread on a couple of platforms where our business owners can collaborate, get to know each other. I love to see the organic chemistry that's being fostered and built. Nothing to do with me. All I've done is say, hey, you should know this person. And then they connect and they work together. So there's an organic part of it. And of course, I am working every day to promote business owners to close to 60,000 people now.
Very good, very good. So, I have another question from the audience, but I'm going to cover this kind of leading into it. So, January 25th of 2021, Look Ahead America launched our anti corporate censorship model legislation. The goal of this, Erik, is to prevent businesses that censor legal speech or deplatform those who are engaged in legal business from benefiting from government contracts. And that leads into, I think you can understand that. That leads into our next question. What avenues are there for business owners to push for both local and federal law change to bring back a quote unquote level playing ground? Do you see any sort of local, state, or federal law that's being introduced to change, bring it back to a more level playing ground? Or do you think that's something that we need to engage in and work on?
Absolutely. Another great question. Well, here's the thing. A lot of people, I used to work with the state of Columbia, South Carolina. A lot of people couldn't even tell you the name of their state senator, the name of their state representative. If they don't know who you are, that's a problem. And when it comes down to it, if you're a business owner and you don't know their name, there's even a bigger problem. Listen, politicians know two things. They know money and they know votes. And they need both to stay in there. And in the end of the day, if I was by numerous members of the state house, that if they get 10 people, not 100, not 200, 10 from their constituents that actually contact them with either a letter or a personalized email or a phone call, it's like alarm bells go off because this
Oh,
is not
yeah.
a form letter. This is actually coming directly from that constituent, proving they live in the district. So what I would say is we need to bring these business owners together to make law, to actually push their specific representatives to say, we're watching, we remember that we elected you, and we can replace you. And if you have to talk in those terms, because unfortunately, we all know these politicians can say one thing, do another.
That's very right. We see that a lot in terms of our legislation research and activism. I do have a great question from Baracho in terms of the generation coming up behind us. Why do you think young people, especially artists, tend to be more socialist, communist when they should be more capitalistic and liberty oriented?
Whew, that might take
I
a while to
know.
answer. There's a lot to put on there for sure. Well, here's
Yes.
the encouraging thing. So I'm 33. Okay, so I'm technically in the millennial world, and what I can tell you is here's where we go wrong sometimes as a movement. Sometimes we look so angry all the time that all you hear is what patriots are against, but not what we're for. And if we don't have a positive, fun agenda for people to get involved with, well, then why would they? Younger people want to fit in. That's probably one of the biggest problems that lot of younger people face. And a lot of times that's why they join gangs. That's why they join these bad fraternities, secret groups, because they're looking for belonging. And maybe they had a terrible childhood. Maybe they've been bullied, whatever it might be. We have to come along, and that's why one day I want to have concerts for liberty. I'm working on one right now, actually, in the spring. I want to make the liberty movement so fun that you've got to be part of it. Otherwise, you're missing out. And younger people don't want to miss out on where the action is. The second part of it is we need to show younger people that when they become entrepreneurs and they make their own money, do they really want 90% of it going back to people who aren't even working? And I will tell you,
Right.
if younger people start making money, they want that hard earned money. So we need to make entrepreneurship something that gets people excited about and not something to be envious of.
And it empowers them,
It
right?
absolutely does.
So if you're a young entrepreneur, you have power, you have pull, you have prestige. When you go work within your community as an entrepreneur, you have the power to make change. Entrepreneurship needs to be encouraged in the America First movement. I absolutely agree. So, Erik, from there, opinion, what can we do? What do we need to do? In your opinion, from your experience and your wisdom, what can America First activists do to make change?
There's so many different things that we can do, and that's probably the best question you've asked, honestly, so far. Because I get so tired, I told you earlier, of pep rallies for patriotism.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
lovely, they're great, they make you feel good, but there has to be a call to act. And here is the thing: I like to say, we have different lanes of different arenas of the battle for our liberty. So, what does that mean? Well, some of us have maybe a sphere of 100 people that we influence. Some of us, it might be 1,000. Some of us, it might be 5 or 10. We have to use that God-given ability that we have, whether we have that influence to just our family, to our coworkers, to our churches. We have to realize not only where you spend your money is a vote, because you vote with your dollars, where you spend your time is a vote. Are you going to a
Right.
church? And this is my, step on some toes. I'm going to do it because I'm a pastor's son. If you're going to a church that's okay with critical race, if you're going to a church that's okay with suppressing medical freedom because it's the loving thing to do, to be submitting to tyranny, if you're going to a church that's doing any of that, you are doing the greatest disservice to your family. And let me tell you, you're condoning this tyranny that's starting to take ugly roots in the churches. The second thing I would say is, if you are part of a school that's pushing critical race, that's pushing these things, you need to think about getting your kids out of there. And you need to think about homeschooling. I was homeschooled for most of my education, and I came out pretty all right. I have no social problems with other people my age. I have no issues. In fact, because of the homeschooling, I love learning. I love reading books about history. Why do I know so much about John C. Calhoun and what he did for the War of 1812? Because I got to read what I wanted to read. We would read so many books from the library. So fighting in the education system, fighting, and then with sports. We got to stop supporting woke sports. We need to start supporting local sports. If we can bring everything back to the local level, Aaron, we can make so much more of an impact. But when we look at everything from Washington and our state capitals, we're very ineffective. So right in our town square, our mayor, our school boards, our city council, we can really make a difference there immediately. Don't have to wait. You can work on that today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have made a huge difference working on a local level in my area, getting involved locally, getting parents, moms, dads, businesses involved and engaged on a local level. We have become stronger as a community because of that, working together. That is 100% correct. I couldn't agree more.
And
Um,
actually, I just saw a comment here about Catholics. Let me just say something great about Catholics. There have been more Catholics going to the pro-life march than any other
right.
group of people. So let me just make that clear. And by the way, when I was born in Ireland, I was raised Catholic and then became non-denominational. But let me just say, I'm so proud of the Catholics who have stood firm on the life issue and have been unrelenting for fighting for the unborn. That means the world to me. And one other thing I want to say is, so I live in Charleston, South Carolina, right? So instead of just saying America first, I need to say Charleston first.
Mhm,
Because
mhm,
think about,
mhm.
that's where, again, we can really make a difference. And everyone tries to change Washington. That's what the media wants us to stay focused on. They want us to stay
Right.
focused on these long petitions and maybe they'll read them. No, no, the mayors live in your towns. The state
Mm.
reps are on your neighborhood. or the school board member. So that's where we need to fight where it matters, and where it counts is at home.
Mhm. That's correct. Does anybody have any more questions for Eric before I kind of close out and see if he wants to talk about his website and socials? I'm gonna give him a couple of minutes,
And
Eric.
another way you can help, in fact, with our movement is if you know of a business owner that is pro
Yes,
life,
please.
pro liberty, pro history, pro Second Amendment, and America first, please reach out to me, and I'll offer us a couple of minutes of their time, and I'll
Mhm,
share the vision with them and see if we can add them to our list and have another in another state. In fact, like I said, I want to be in 50 states, and I want to be able for every woke business to have 10 patriot businesses.
mhm, mhm. Yes, Eric, we have people all across the country. We've got people in Washington State. We've got people in the Northeast. We have people in the Great Lakes. We have people down south in Texas. Along the border, we have people, members here. So anybody, any business, it doesn't matter how small they are, it doesn't matter how big they are. Please, let's get together and start the moving it forward. Eric, is there anything else that I may have missed? I feel like there's so much we could talk about. Is there anything that we may have missed? Any points that I'm here?
Well, I would just say again that when it comes down to it, we all have a voice, but unfortunately, we get so distracted, right? There's so many things pulling on us on social media, and literally notifications were scientifically designed to be addictive. I mean, there's all kinds of studies about this. They're hooked on silly stuff. Man, and look, I'm all about laughing and having a good time. But when your day, half your day is watching mindless videos or playing video games that have no point, or spending time hours and hours Netflix shows, and Netflix is beyond woke, by the way, they got their own problems, but spending hours of your day not fighting the good fight, then you're kind of adding to the problem. I'll be honest with you. Like, for those of us who are putting in a lot of effort to fight back, and you're just mindless. I mean, it drives me nuts, Aaron, when I see these youth pastors posting proudly, here's my, peppermint mocha from Starbucks in an effeminate manner. I'm going, first of all, please never do that again. And secondly, you are literally buying into the problem, and you're broadcasting it on social media. It drives me nuts. I saw someone
Right.
ask a question about, if you're poor, what can you do? Well, look, here's the thing. When you get to know business owners locally, they'll work with you. These big box office people will never work with you. I've had some
Hmm.
amazing conversations with local business owners who, like I said earlier, bend over backwards to help you. So when it comes down to it, we have to prioritize. We're all buying clothes, we're all buying food, we're all buying the basic necessities. We're buying it from somewhere. And that somewhere needs to be from patriots.
I so the past 2 years, Eric, when I have small children, so of course they have lots of requests when it comes to Christmas presents. Um, I
Hmm.
The past 2 years I have not used Amazon. I have gone out to seek like local toy makers. I know it sounds silly, but local toy makers and buy from them first. Or if I can't find it from somebody who can make it, I will go to shops within my own community, within my own immediate locale, like Family Dollar or Walmart or wherever, and I try to put my money to work where I am.
Hmm.
um, I've really tried to make a conscious effort, and it's difficult for some things, yes, but it's getting easier and easier. The more people you connect with in your community, the more time you spend in your community, the more connections you make. For example, there is one farmer out here, and people shared this with members in the cooking and homesteading channel. There is one guy in my local area who only grows shiitake mushrooms. And he literally took an hour and a half out of his day to show me. He brought me out into the woods. He showed me where he grows his mushrooms on logs. on his farm. It's like a family farm, and he walked me around. And this man grows shiitake mushrooms. Like, he showed me where he inoculates the logs, how he does that, how he dries the mushrooms. And I asked him, like, how are you reaching out to your community? He was like, I reach out to scout groups, Cub Scout groups, Boy Scout groups, saying, hey, if you come here and work for a little bit of time, maybe working around the farm, you can have the proceeds of what I sell. So these sort of connections have to be made. You can't spend all of your time behind a computer screen complaining and whining.
No,
We
it's not
see
good
it.
for your health either, by the way.
Right, right. We see it all the time, Aaron, and it's exhausting.
And
These
by the way,
people
you
that
can
sit.
use, and sorry to interrupt, but you can use Amazon against Amazon. You know how you do that? You go on Amazon and you make a search, like nuts or whatever it might be, and you go to that individual distributor and you go to their website and you buy from them. So you're not giving Amazon
Yeah,
one penny, and yet you're using them against themselves. So that's how
right.
if I'm on Amazon, that's how I use Amazon.
And we actually do use Amazon for our own gain at Look at America. We do it through Amazon Smile. So
Yes.
so if we sign up for to support Look at America on Amazon Smile, then part of the our sales go towards Look at America. So we try to work in that way to counteract, the Amazon behemoth. But it seems like they're suffering lately too. So good for them.
No,
Um,
and here's another way, sorry, but another way to think about it. When you go to a local business, how many businesses were shut down in 2020? And while Amazon soared, while Walmart soared, they had record numbers. How many businesses of mom and pop business that were there for 40, 50, nearly 100 years were just gone? A lot, a lot over the country. And your purchases could be the reason they stay in business today. I mean, I
mhm.
can't tell you how many people come to me saying, I need more foot traffic. I need more people to leave reviews. That's a huge thing, by the way. Google reviews or Facebook reviews, or like you being able to say, hey, I got my tennis shoes from this store because they're patriots and because they gave me the greatest experience. That will get so much traffic going their direction. But if we don't take that extra step and we fall for convenience, then we get what we deserve. And people have said to me, Eric, what is our biggest adversary? It's not Joe Biden. It's not the media. It's not even socialism. It's ourselves. It's our convenience problem. Oh, it's only a mile away. Oh, I can just click here and get what I want. Well, you know what? With that lovely little click you're doing, you're actually clicking for tyranny. Without going an extra mile, and you're bowing into convenience, then you're being part of the problem. So I just tell people it is worth the sacrifice. It is worth the sacrifice to work a little bit harder, be a little more creative, and support a patriot. And you'll feel better about yourself. And like I told you earlier, Aaron, I've made so many great friends. Why wouldn't you want to make these great friendships?
Right. I know. I love it. The people I've met has just been wonderful. Just reaching out into your community. So I've got another great question. This one is from Baracho. What about patriotic businesses trying to expand and getting their product into big box stores as distributor or vendor? Seems like a
Hmm. I have a conundrum face right now at that question. No, it is because I'll give you a great example. Actually, we have a lady who has her products in stores all over the country, but she refuses to sell on Amazon. And she said, Eric, if I did that, I'd probably be a millionaire. But she's still doing very well. But she actually sells herbal remedies for people and amazing agave syrup. And she said, her business is called Roots and Leaves. I'm giving her a shameless plug. Roots and Leaves. Look her up. What she does is she says to me, Eric, I'd rather have less money, but it not go to have extra money to go to Amazon. I don't want to give them any of my business. So like people like her show you that you can still get your products to these other places that aren't like Amazon and still make a great living, but not give down your principles. And I appreciate that about her so much. But Roots and Leaves is in Aiken, South Carolina, but they've got businesses all over the country. They've got their products, I should say, all over the country.
Oh, Aiken, South Carolina is really big horse country. I've been down there to
Oh, it's a
some
lovely place. Oh my goodness.
steeplechase races.
If you're a horse person, you need to go check out Aiken for sure.
They have great fox hunting too. So, I have a question here from Funky for Real, Eric. Is
It's a great
there
name.
an is there a is there an iOS or Android app for Businesses for Liberty? Is that something that you may be going into
Definitely
the
on.
app?
Actually, this is a great example of the conundrum question, right? Because a lot of cheap, and I say cheap in quotation marks, app developers are from overseas, and I refuse to do it because I don't want to have a globalist in any way, shape, or form out of the. I want this to be American made. I'm big on made in America. I believe in it, and now sometimes you just can't, but in every way I possibly can. I want stuff made in America. So down the road, absolutely. Was it, yeah, Funky for Real, that. But we're not quite at that stage yet. And honestly, we've done just fine with the website and the social media presence, and we'll get there. We'll get there. That's my answer to that question.
Right. You are an application developer, maybe reach out to Eric. So
Exactly.
have
There you go. There's a way to volunteer. There's a way to help.
absolutely. Yes. So I have a question from Missy. Have you read The War on Small Business?
I know about the war on small business. Is she talking about an actual book?
Is it a book, Missy? Yes. She says yes.
Okay, no, I've not actually read the actual book now.
No, maybe that will be our next book club. You
There
know.
you go. Yeah, and by the way, readers are leaders. So you've got me convicted. I'm going to look that up because I love to read because we have to stay ahead of the enemy. And if we don't know, by the way, people ask me, what news do you watch? I watch all of it. The left, I watch the right, I watch the center because I want to know what they're all saying. And sometimes,
Yes.
there's all this showboating and people wanting to get views, and so I don't just listen to one channel. And I'm gonna get on my what they call that soapbox for a second and say this: be very careful that you don't give all your power to one social media person or one big personality. Let me tell you right now, principles always win over personalities. Principles stand the test of time. Personalities come and go. So be very careful that you don't put all your stuff in with, well, I only listen to this prophet. I only listen to this person. No, no, no. First of all, it just stands alone. And secondly, beyond that, let me also say this, that when it comes down to it, any person can be fallible. Any person can make a mistake. So be very careful that you lean on principles over personalities.
That's absolutely correct. Very good point. Eric, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody is super amped and very pleased to have you here. They love and have been engaged in your entire conversation. Thank you for coming. Is there anything that you want to share in terms of your website and socials? Please point out your socials,
Yeah.
your specific tags for Instagram, anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then first of all, this has been a great delight for me, and I love that this has been all of us talking. We're not talking at you; we're talking with you. And I've been trying to answer your questions immediately when I hear about them because I want. And by the way, you can reach out to me personally. I'd love to hear from you if you send me an email at businessesforliberty@protonmail.com. And by the way, Proton is the most secure. I know that from Trump's ambassador to Switzerland and Liechtenstein, Ed McMullen. He told me, hey, if you want the most secure encrypted email, use Proton. So if you email me at businessesforliberty@protonmail.com, I'd love to chat with you and set up a time for a call. I'll also say that we're on Facebook, we're on Getter, we're on Truth Social, we're on LinkedIn, we're on all of them. And if you just look up Businesses for Liberty, you'll find us. We're pretty behind on any one of those places, but I want to have a significant presence because I don't put all my eggs in one basket. And the final
Do
thing I'll
not
say, go ahead.
do not be afraid to go into and stand your ground.
Amen. And I was actually about to make that point. That's amazing. Great minds think alike. I was just about to say, people have asked me, why are you on Facebook? And why are we on the internet? There's terrible stuff on the internet, but you know what? There's
Right.
also great stuff on the internet. You can share a Bible verse. You can share about what patriotism means. So yes, I fight on enemy territory, and I'm proud to do it.
Mm-hmm. Be unafraid and unapologetically American. I love it, Erik. So, Erik, thank you so much for coming. I'm going to lead into some notes here on what we are doing for Look Ahead America currently, some upcoming events and things if you want to stick around and listen in.
I would love to, absolutely.
Great. So we're super, super, super busy here at Look at America. We're always engaged. We're fighting on multiple battlefronts. I love it. That's why I'm very happy to be a part of this group. We do have a beginning community organizer training interactive webinar, a new one coming up on Monday, January 30th at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Is limited to the first 100 people. So please sign up now. These fill up really fast. You can go to lookaheadamerica.org/BCOT. In research, we just released an analysis of 9 Texas election integrity bills. Erik, this will please you. So lookaheadamerica.org/9 TX 2023 bills. You can find that there. We also have an incredible new podcast episode out. This one is the J6, the Political Prisoner podcast. It is featuring Barry Ramey. He is currently held at the Northern Neck Regional Jail in Warsaw, Virginia. He was held before that at the DC Gitmo. He is pre-trial. His case will not be heard until it's scheduled for February 21st, but it's all just continued and continued. He was recently slashed with a knife across his face, inmate in the Northern Neck Regional Jail. The inmates in Northern Neck are the bottom of the barrel. They are convicted killers. They are rapists. They are horrible people. And like I was telling Erik, these men being arrested for January 6th, the majority of them are nonviolent. The majority of them have no previous criminal record. They're just meat for these crazy people. His episode can be found on lookaheadamerica.org/J6. That is our J6 arrestee database. The link to the podcast will be at the top of the page. So you can find his latest episode for that. We also have coming up movie night Sundays, Sunday p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. This coming Sunday, we will be doing part 3 and 4 of The Real Anthony Fauci. That's a continuation from part 1 and 2 this past Sunday. On January 29th, we will be screening Rigged, the Zuckerberg plot against Donald Trump. So book club, a lot going on. Book club. So we are reading The Practicing Stoic, a philosophical user manual by author Ward Farnsworth. The meeting on January 23rd will cover chapters 5 through 9, and book club is held every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Of course, you can find a recording of this wonderful AMA with Erik Corcoran with Businesses for Liberty on the YouTube, the Look Ahead America channel soon. So we'll have it in the next day or so. And until then, you can find all the past and previously recorded AMAs. Wonderful stuff. Check it out. I know that's a lot to cover, but thank you so much for hanging in there. This has been a wonderful conversation. I am so happy to have Erik. Thank you so much for taking the time, Erik.
It was a great honor. And thank you all for listening and for asking questions and for being what I would say as engaged patriots. Nothing worse than someone who claims to be a patriot is not willing to get up off the couch. So thank you for standing in the gap because you're the reason we're going to keep our freedom.
Thank you, Erik. We'll be in touch. We're going to do great things. Talk
God
to you
bless you
soon.
all.
Bye.